Hello, I'm Eric Snodgrass, Principal Atmospheric Scientist at Nutrien Ag Solutions, and I want to thank you for watching this weekly Ag Weather Update brought to you by the Farm Credit Associations of North Carolina. I want to begin first by looking at the last 3 days of total accumulated precipitation, and certainly the major weather headline over the weekend was Hurricane Barry. Now, interestingly enough, Hurricane Barry, which you can see the major rainfall here, some locations getting well over 6 to 10 inches of rainfall, and more being added today. Well, Hurricane Barry was actually the first hurricane that began with the letter B that's hit the United States since 1999 when we had Hurricane Brett. Meanwhile, we did have a frontal boundary that was lingering over in this area, so we did see some widely scattered showers and storms, some of which produced some very heavy rains in parts of North and South Carolina recently. But the bigger question will be is what does rainfall look like in the coming days as the heat comes right back on over parts of the Carolinas? So to show you that, we do have heat advisories out today here for parts of coastal North Carolina and South Carolina, and of course major flood watches here still up the Mississippi River. But the longer term question is, what are we doing with heat? What are we doing with our precipitation? And is it going to be stressing our crops as we move forward? Right now, just looking at the latest U.S. drought monitor now, this was released last Thursday. We still can see pockets of drought in the North and South Carolina region, also through the rest of the Southeast. And just going to show you why that is. Take a look at this. This is just zoomed in here on Wilmington. So we're right down here where that S is located. And I want you to look at this graph carefully with me. Now this starts on January 1st and goes to today. And when you look at this, the normal rate of accumulation of precipitation, and when I say normal, I'm just talking about the 30-year climatological average, looks something like that. The wettest year for this area, of course, was last year, 2018. But I want you to see where we currently stand. It's right here. So we're several inches in deficit in this particular area, despite some of the wetter weather we've had recently. A lot of that deficit came right in through this area. So you remember going back to the end of May throughout the end of April through the month of May, we had that huge ridge that brought in the heat and not much precipitation. And that graph where, which is really flattened through this area, is where we missed out on a lot of our rainfall. Since then, you can see we've been getting it, and it's kind of matched the normal slope of our precipitation. But before that, very, very, very dry. So that's why we're seeing some of the longer-term drought stresses in the coastal Carolinas. Now, certainly, as you saw a year ago, extremely wet. In fact, this is pretty neat. This is statewide precipitation ranks from July 2018 through June 2019. And North Carolina, over the last 12 months, has had its wettest year on record. Of course, a lot of that driven by Hurricane Florence and Michael. But still, more recently, we've had some precip, but going back into the month of May, things were quite dry. Speaking of May, I want to show you the statewide average temperature ranks. North Carolina, you were ranked 122nd out of, 123rd out of 124, and that's what you can see over here on the right. Remember, this was the time period where the flow pattern was doing something like this, and that ridge was in place. Very similar heat to a year ago. That's the map that's over on the left. That's 2018. But look at June. You ready for this? June of 2018 was quite warm, but June of 2019 actually was much, much closer to average in terms of temperatures. But certainly recently, this is just looking over the last 14 days, the heat has been back on in parts of the Carolinas. We have to talk about how long that is going to last. Well, to do that, we need to move into the upper levels of the atmosphere. So I'm going to start you right now up at 500 millibars, and we can see the flow of the jet stream is doing something like this. And out here in the Pacific, we have actually a low pressure system sitting with the Aleutians with a high pressure system just north of Hawaii. And it turns out that this low sweeping into this area is going to be a major player for North Carolina weather. That's right, because of what it's going to do to the size and duration and movement of the ridge that is currently sitting over much of the eastern two-thirds of the country. Now, I do realize you see the little circulation in here. That is Barry, and we're going to talk about where Barry is going. But that ridge, the broader, weaker flow that's moved into Canada, is the dominant player as we move forward in this forecast. So let's just watch those two things. Here is that trough. Here's the ridge that is south of it. I want you to pay attention to where this trough is going and what it means for the ridge that sets up in this part of the country. So I'm just going to play this once for you here and watch that trough dive into British Columbia. Watch the ridge build in the east first, shift to the middle part of the country, and then move finally over to the west with time. Now that it's an important flow pattern to see here because our ridge starts here, moves there, and then eventually moves here. So it's shifting west with time, and we need to know what that means in terms of our temperatures and our precipitation. Let's start off first with precipitation. What I want to do is I want to animate for you from the European model every 6 hours added up through the next 10 days. Ready? So this has already got the first 12 hours of the day of Monday in it. As I press play, you can see berries spreading into the Ohio River Valley, spreading into Tennessee, Kentucky. But you noticed here that it's really not until the end of this forecast time period that we start to see a whole lot more shower and thunderstorm activity for the Carolinas. Now, this of course is our lower resolution model that runs out 10 days. We're going to take a high resolution look in just a few moments here. But getting you into the day on Monday, what are we watching? Of course, here's post-tropical cyclone Barry moving into the Ohio River Valley. There is a front draped in this area, high pressure behind it. So we're going to watch for showers and potentially some thunderstorms, in parts of North Carolina. But outside of that, overall, when we look over the next 10 to 15 days, a drier picture. Doesn't mean we won't be getting rain, but drier than normal. Storm Prediction Center says today general risk of thunderstorms across parts of the Carolinas, with the main risk being way up here in the north central plains on northwest flow. Getting into the day on Tuesday, very similar picture. So we'll see scattered showers and thunderstorms here, but the severe weather kind of stays way out in north central plains. Now, watch some of the details of this. Ready? This is our high resolution NAM model. I'm going to click play, and you'll see Barry moving throughout the day on Monday into the Ohio River Valley. Now, we're on Monday night into Tuesday morning. If you remember, there was a boundary lingering right in through here, a front right in that area. And you're going to see as I get into the day on Tuesday, here we go. This is Tuesday morning, Tuesday afternoon, and then Tuesday evening. Now, you start to see the showers and storms with that boundary and Barry's moisture moving into parts of North Carolina. So we're going to watch at this time for the potential for some stronger storms to be moving through this particular part of North Carolina. Again, we're talking Tuesday evening into the early morning hours of Wednesday. Outside of that, that's our only main risk of having some adverse weather as we get through the first couple of days of this week. To see how the rest of the week goes, we're going to switch over to the European model. Let's click play, and let's pause it right about here. Toward the end of the week, the major players influencing North Carolina weather. We do have high pressure that's sitting right over the Hudson Bay. There's a low spinning way up here in the Canadian Maritimes, and there will be a frontal boundary draped into this area. Off the page, subtropical high is here, and the flow is doing something like this. So what you're going to notice is as we get into the end of the week, our chances for storms do increase across parts of the Carolinas. Let me just take you back one step there. This is Friday evening, for example. This is going to be popping on some of the afternoon heat and humidity. You're very used to this. This is normal kind of convective activity in the Carolinas. Now, as I take my drawings off there and get you past Thursday here, into Friday, look again, storms popping Friday evening, again, across parts of the southeast. We're just going to keep seeing that same pattern. Look, Monday, Tuesday, it's just the same thing over parts of the southeast. Now, when you watch that animation, you'd automatically go, wow, it looks like it's going to be very wet once we get past maybe the first couple of days, or really the first several days of this week. But when we put it all together, look at this. I've got the next 15 days from the European model over here on the left and the GEFS, that's the GFS ensemble on the right. We actually see that this is maybe on the slightly drier side of things. A lot of hit or miss scattered showers and thunderstorms compared to the much more active, tropical systems or big low pressure systems that can sometimes sneak across the United States here at the end of the month of July. So overall, even though we do see widely scattered showers and storms showing up in our forecast, overall, it is a bit of a drier picture. Now, the story comes in when we start talking about temperatures. I showed you we already have heat advisories out for Monday. Look at those temperatures over there. Seeing temperatures in the middle to upper 90s. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw a triple-digit temperature in the day on Monday. As I click play here, let's get out to the day on Tuesday. Still a lot of mid to upper 90s spreading across the Carolinas. By the time we get into Wednesday, which is right here, same story, middle to upper 90s. Thursday, mid 90s. Friday, still mid 90s, upper 90s. Getting into Saturday, this is just a week where the heat is on. We're going to continue to see much above average temperatures here across parts of the Carolinas. In fact, the whole of the eastern part of the United States, I'm talking east of the Rocky Mountains, is looking to be hot as we progress through the end of this week and into early next week. But again, we saw that larger ridge building here and then slowly transitioning to the west with time. That's why the heat is in place. So looking at it a little bit more of an aggregate view over the next 5 days, much above average temperatures. We've seen this. Days 5 through 10, same story. Now remember, by the time we got toward the end of that forecast time period where I was showing you the flow of the jet stream, the ridge moved west with time. We may start to see a return toward much more normal temperatures over parts of the Carolinas in the 11 to 15 day time period. And again, the flow of the atmosphere was trying to do something a bit more like this. Now, we've seen issues with these models trying to predict out in the 11 to 15 day time period if the eventual evolution of the pattern. We've seen that persistence of a pattern has been a better forecaster than actually using the dynamical models to pick this up. So I think we should be on the lookout for sustained heat through the end of the month of July and possibly returning in the month of August as well. All right. What about the bigger picture of things? Well, when we take a look at what's been controlling the recent changes in the flow of the jet stream, the recent changes in our flow pattern, it's been a lot to do with what's going on in the Pacific Ocean. We picked up on this back on July 5th and 6th. I put it in the last Monday's video, but we have started to see kind of the collapse of El Nino. So ocean temperatures here in the midsection of the Pacific cooling with time. You can actually see coming off the west coast of South America and the west coast of parts of North America, cooler water showing up. This means we're losing the base state El Nino conditions, and that's going to do a few things. That's going to slow down our jet stream. That's going to push it to the north. That's going to allow us to be hotter at times. The other thing that this does is this tends to calm down Atlantic wind shear, and that's crucial for us in North Carolina because at the same time that that's happening, we're starting to see throughout this week and next week, better upper level support moving across the Caribbean, Gulf of Mexico, and main development region of the Atlantic for tropical systems. Remember, El Nino tends to shut down tropical systems with a lot of wind shear over the Atlantic. If we don't have that in play anymore, which is what I'm showing you here, we could be moving over into a time period that is going to be featuring a better chance at some tropical systems. Now, the National Hurricane Center isn't watching anything over the next 5 days that's of major concern, but just remember, we're getting now to the end of July and the beginning of August. That's when things really start to get ramped up. So we're going to keep a close eye on this together. To finish up, I want to give you a quick global tour here just to kind of see some other regions that we're in competition with in terms of crops in the Carolinas. Over the next 5 days, we're going to be watching for heat to build back into much of Western Europe. This is the day 5 through 10 forecast here. We do see that parts of Europe are still going to be seeing quite a bit of severe weather. Italy has taken an absolute beating over the last several days here with a lot of reports of hail. And in and around the Black Sea, which is here, storms, scattered storms around that area. Now, why that's the case is that throughout this week, a deeper trough will be building into this area, and out ahead of it, heat, but we're still seeing a lingering trough that's sitting here over parts of Western Russia and also a trough that's sweeping through this area. So as a result of the trough that's sweeping in here through the Black Sea, so the Black Sea in these images, there it is, and here it is. We see that parts of the Russian wheat belt getting some rain, but much of the rest of Europe, outside of widely scattered showers and storms, some of which can be severe over parts of Italy, much of the rest of Europe is looking at a warm and dry progression of their pattern in the coming days. To finish this up, I want to take you over toward India and China and just show you over the rainfall over the next week in some important growing areas. First, the main growing regions south of Beijing looking quite dry over the coming week. To the north of Beijing, this area here north of the Korean Peninsula as well. Widely scattered showers and storms, not a whole lot going on there. The monsoon has calmed down temporarily in India. We had a big pulse move through, and now things have actually, believe it or not, that's a drier map for India this time of year. We've also seen parts of southeastern China dry out recently. Dry out in the forecast because we've switched things up and we're now watching a tropical system that could be potentially emerging here and running up the east coast of China. So that takes the Mayu front, which has been keeping things so wet in through here, out of play temporarily. So a lot going on over in Asia that I think markets will be watching. We'll be watching carefully for the development of this tropical system over the coming days here. But with that, hopefully that gives you a nice global perspective on how how weather will be impacting what we do here in the Carolinas. I'll go ahead and wrap it up right there. Wheat Nutrient Ag Solutions and at the Farm Credit Associations of North Carolina, thank you for your attention and hope you look forward to our videos that come out next week. Thank you.